going on, guys? It's Steve. So a lot of people never compare these type of players because of the different position, which I completely understand. Because if you look at the role of Russell Westbrook and then you compare that to the role of Kawhi Leonard, they're very different, but they're also similar to some extent. For example, Russell Westbrook is the point guard, the ball dominant player on that team. Kawhi Leonard is definitely the best player on that team, but I'm not quite sure if he is the vocal leader and things like that, because to be honest, we know Westbrook is, but I think Tony and Manu and Powell are, because they all have way more experience and they all used to be NBA superstars, right? So they're different roles, different types of players. However, we can still compare these kind of players when talking about who's better. Now, some people may be like, it's obvious, Russell Westbrook is the better player. He's averaging a triple-double, 31 points per game, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. While you can say that, but then when you look at how efficient Kawhi Leonard is, it's sort of like, wow. It kind of blows your mind because Kawhi Leonard is playing at such an efficient level right now. And on top of that, obviously Russell Westbrook doesn't have as much help on his team as Kawhi does. But Kawhi has the better record at 35-9. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. And when I'm making this video, they're on a 4-game winning streak. They're 16-5 at home and 19-4 on the road. It's very rare that teams are better on the road than they are at home. But for some reason, the Spurs over the last 2 decades have been just as good on the road as they have been at home. Now, Kawhi Leonard, what is he doing this season that's so spectacular? If you look at last season first, he was averaging 21 points per game, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Now, you're like, okay, those are pretty decent numbers. However, when you look at what he's doing now, you realize the elevation that his game has taken. Now, his field goal percentage did go down by 1%, but I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. Anyway, so Kawhi Leonard is averaging 25.5 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 2 turnovers. This is the amazing part. He's shooting 49% from the field, 41% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. He has potential to go in the 50-40-90 club. He's having an incredibly efficient season. Not quite as efficient as Kevin Durant, but he's having a very efficient season in terms of scoring and shooting the basketball. He's having a great year. And then when you look at Russell Westbrook's stat line, it blows your mind. However, when you look at his field goal percentage and you see he's not as efficient as Kawhi, it brings the question, well, what do you value most as your team? So we'll get to that in a second. However, Russell Westbrook is averaging 31 points per game, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 1 steal. He has 5.5 turnovers per game, which is very, very bad. He's shooting 42% from the field, 32% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line. Now, when you look at, he's taking 20, almost 24 shots per game to get to 30 points per game. Now, if we look at historically and other players that have averaged close to 30 or nearly 30, they've taken, so if you look at the efficient ones like your LeBrons and things like that, they've taken less shots, but at the same time, Russell Westbrook, he's a different type of animal. He's ferocious and he doesn't care. He's reckless, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's like a blessing and a curse at the same time. However, the thing about Russell Westbrook that kind of irritates me is that a lot of people don't speak about his efficiency, because a lot of people give him the excuse that, well, he's the only one on his team. Who is he going to pass to? Okay, I understand that. But you also have to go a little bit more in depth. If you look at LeBron James when he was the only one on his team, he was still incredibly efficient. If you look at Michael Jordan, he was still incredibly efficient. Now, we're obviously comparing Russell Westbrook to 2 of the best players of all time, but if you're a superstar, you should expect to be compared to those type of players historically, because let's be real, Russell Westbrook has the potential to go down as one of the best ever if he can continue to do what he's doing this season. He's averaging a triple-double, damn it. It's incredible. It's incredibly amazing what Russell Westbrook is doing this season. Now, another thing that is spectacular about Russell Westbrook is that he is being used 42% of the time. So what does this mean? This means his usage percentage is 42%, which means, again, this means that when he's on the floor, 42% of the plays ran through Russell Westbrook. That is incredible. Absolutely incredible. If you compare that to Kawhi Leonard, he's only at 30%. Now, that's obvious because Kawhi Leonard has way more help than Russell Westbrook does. And let's be real for a second. For the Thunder to still be 6th seed in the West at 26-19, I was not expecting that. You guys know, coming into the season, I said the Oklahoma City Thunder probably won't make it into the NBA playoffs. However, it's looking like they will. And it looks like they'll probably be around 6th, 7th seed, around there. And it depends because I know Memphis is going to pick it up. They've been struggling their last 10 games. Same with Cleveland. I know Cleveland's in the East, but, same with Houston. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. A lot of teams have been struggling, right? Kawhi and the Spurs are doing their thing. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games, So it brings up the topic on who's better, Russell Westbrook or Kawhi Leonard. Now, it all depends on the type of team you have. For example, I would not want Russell Westbrook on a team like the San Antonio Spurs because that team would absolutely fall apart. That team is built to pass the ball, run and gun, and that's it. No selfishness, none of that. And it's not a knock on Russell Westbrook because the same thing with people saying, oh, Chris Paul might go to the Spurs. It's not going to happen. Chris Paul is too ball dominant. You cannot have these ball dominant players on, like a team like the Spurs. It just won't happen. It just won't happen. Golden State's a little bit different because they're all superstars. It's crazy. They're all NBA superstars on that team. So to me, it depends on what type of team you're going to. But if I were to draft one of these two players, who would it be? Now, the question arises is that Kawhi Leonard is a small forward and Russell Westbrook is a point guard. So why is that so important? You guys know, I made a video over the summer of 2016, and I said, the small forward position is the most valuable position in the NBA because if you think about what the small forward position can do, let's use LeBron James for an example. LeBron James is 6'8", 250 pounds. He can literally guard almost every single damn position. Heck, we could even talk about Kevin Durant. We could talk about Carmelo Anthony. We could talk about Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. You name it, they can do it. Melo, he would probably struggle on the perimeter. However, the 3 spot, the 2 spot, the 4 spot, and the 5 spot, he can guard. LeBron, he'd probably be able to guard all 5 positions. Giannis Antetokounmpo can guard all 5 positions. Kevin Durant, he'd probably struggle down low against some of the big guys, but he could probably guard all 5 positions. All of these small forwards, for the most part, can, except for like Jimmy Butler and Paul George. But for the most part, they can guard at least 3 out of 5. Whereas a point guard, you really can only guard either 1 or 2 positions, depending on if you're a Stephen Curry type point guard or if you're a Chris Paul type point guard. The reason why I bring that up is because if you look at Chris Paul is a 9-time all-defensive point guard. All NBA, all defense. He's a beast. So Chris Paul can guard his position, whereas if you're Stephen Curry, you have to go on the opposing shooting guard because you cannot guard the point guard position. Not a knock at Stephen Curry. It's just the way it is. So point guards can truly only guard 2 positions, whereas a small forward can guard 3+. Now let's talk about the offensive end. The small forward can bring the ball up the court. They can dribble. They can post up. They can face up. They can catch and shoot. They can do everything. The small forward position is so much more valuable than the point guard position. So right there, already, Kawhi Leonard has an advantage over Russell Westbrook. Now, as we go a little bit more in depth, let's talk about efficiency. So we already kind of spoke about how efficient both of these players are. Russell Westbrook has a 29.6 PER, and Kawhi Leonard has a 28.3 PER. Now, Russell Westbrook's PER is incredibly amazing. If you look at, he has nearly a 30 PER while being used 42% of the time while on the floor, which is absolutely phenomenal. So his advanced stats are great, but when you look at his basic stats, you kind of say, you know what? He's a great player, but I kind of question his efficiency because the average 5.5 turnovers per game, and I mean, it happens. Look at LeBron. He's averaging, I think, 4 turnovers per game this season. It's crazy, right? So for that to happen, 5.5 turnovers per game, we see this with James Harden. We see this with a lot of players that are ball dominant, except for Chris Paul. So that shows you how good Chris Paul is. He's only averaged over 3 turnovers once in his entire career. In 12 seasons, only once. That's ridiculous for how ball dominant he is. It's crazy. So in terms of efficiency, advanced obviously goes to Russell Westbrook, but in terms of basic stats, it goes to Kawhi Leonard. So to be honest, 25, 6, and 3. Now let's look at basic stats in terms of, just the general statistics. Russell Westbrook, 31, 10, and 10. Now, I made this video a few months back saying I don't think Russell Westbrook will finish averaging a triple-double. It's just, for someone of his height to be able to, I'm not worried about the assists, even though his assists are 0.2 lower than his rebounds. I'm not worried about his assists. I'm worried more about his rebounding, because for someone of his size to be able to get 10 rebounds per game, now when you average over 10, you don't have to get 10 every single damn game. You could have 15 one game, 7 the next, 12 the next, 9 the next. You know, it works like that, as long as the average is above 10. I don't think it's going to happen because, first of all, you have Steven Adams, you have Enes Kanter. On top of that, he is 6'3", going up against 7-footers, boxing out for the rebound. It's not probable. It's possible, but it's not probable to happen. So I don't think Russell Westbrook will finish averaging a triple-double. Now, let's talk about how these players are carrying their teams. What Russell Westbrook is doing is absolutely phenomenal. It's incredible. 26-19, right? 26-19. I did not expect that. Whereas Kawhi is 35-9 with the Spurs. Who will go deeper? Obviously, the San Antonio Spurs. However, Russell Westbrook is really putting this Oklahoma City Thunder team on his back. However, I would like to say this. You can see how good LeBron James is from looking back through history. If you look at Russell Westbrook right now with this team, I don't know if this team is better or worse. I would say it's actually slightly better than what LeBron James had. Now, LeBron James did have some help, but I'm talking about 08-09 and 09-10 when they went 66-16, and then when they went 61-21. For example, 08-09. They had Mo Williams, Anthony Parker, LeBron James, Anderson Varejao, and Zydrunas Ilgauskas as their starting lineup. They brung in Delonte West. They had Daniel Boobie Gibson. You know, they had what's this dude's name? I'm trying to. This is a throwback. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Anton Jameson came the next season. Shaq came the next season. So, and that was Shaq like 17 years pro. So he was way out of his prime. You know, so I don't know if LeBron had, I can't sit here and definitively say LeBron had less help, but I will say, let's say both teams are equally garbage, right? I'm not saying those players are garbage. I'm just saying, like, he didn't, in terms of the teams now, they don't stand a chance, right? If you look at that and compare that to LeBron was 66-16 and 61-21, and even before then he was 52-30, compared to Russell Westbrook at this point being 26-19. Now, this is the first time Russell Westbrook is, you know, on the team all by himself without Kevin Durant. Obviously, in the 2014-15 NBA season, when the entire league was injured, the year the Golden State Warriors won that championship, you know, Kevin Durant was injured and Russell Westbrook had like 17 triple-doubles in 2 months. It's ridiculous. However, at this point in time, I will conclude this video and say this. At this point in time, Russell Westbrook is putting up better stats and he's carrying his load. In terms of basic stats, like points per game and things like that. But the totality of his game. The totality of the game. I think Kawhi Leonard is better than Russell Westbrook. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been Steve. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm out. Peace.